What's up, guys? It's Mr. Janvet, and today we are back for something a little different. So, as many of you guys may know, I have a program known as the Society Boot Camp. I think that's what I know. It's a boot camp, but that's. I don't think I ever gave a name to it until this moment. But it's basically a 4-week program where a player or players rather comes in. They inform us of their goal and we get them to it, right? With the proper training. They work with multiple coaches over a 4-week period. And yeah, so that's the gist of it. And so a lot of success, a lot of just people who have just gone on to do incredible things who've gone through the boot camp. And it dawned on me that I never really told anybody about this. Like I am not great at marketing. I'm working on it. And so I'm going to have our first person. Actually, I think I may have done one person before, but it wasn't directly showing their progress. But today we're going to have this video where somebody who had just completed it, I wanted to have you meet him and basically get an understanding from his perspective as a participant, his journey, the internal struggles that he had to overcome, what his goals were, and all that. And so, yeah. So the first question for him, well, first, as you start, introduce yourself, but then after that, if you can give the audience a very real sort of analysis of where you were, what your thought processes were, and be very raw, as you know how I am. So as raw as possible, even your doubts before starting, like, okay, this is probably some bullshit, like whatever was going through your mind prior and what your outcome was, what you wanted to do and what caused you to, let me simplify the question. Before you started, what your struggles were, what your doubts were, and then what caused you to actually hop into and give it a try.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Reti, also known as Eika by some people maybe in the Ogen community. I started with Jam, well, a month ago basically, and before starting, I just like transitioned to current gen because I decided I wanted to like actually improve because I've been playing the game for quite some time, and yeah, I'm not like I was not really like respected for the way I played or things like that. Like people somewhat considered me for as a meme for my in-game level, but also for my mentality, and that's mostly the thing that made me go for the Jam experience, Jam bootcamp, since I've seen he had done a lot of stuff regarding mentality and mental aspect of the thing. When we started, he asked me if I wanted to go full on the mentality side or if I wanted to work on Pokemon 2. And I said that I wanted to work on both, but in the end, we worked a lot on mentality, way more than on Pokemon, and like that made like a huge difference, really huge difference. I may be going a bit too fast, but
Nah, you're
I
good.
wanted to say it from the get-go that like from the mentality side of things, like this was really a huge game changer for me. And I don't know if I forgot to answer some part of the question.
Well, no, you're actually perfectly on track. And where were you before? So what were your thoughts? Because I'm sure you've heard of it, or maybe you
Oh,
didn't. But what was that sort of? Where were you prior to doing the boot camp? And what were your sort of like? What were you apprehensive about? Like you're like, oh, I don't know. Like what were your hiccups? And what made you finally decide, screw it?
well, yeah, before starting, I was basically like thinking, no way I can become better at the game.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've told Jam, I kept playing Pokemon mainly because I didn't want it to feel as a quitter,
Mm-hmm.
but mm, I didn't really felt like I could become any better than I was, which wasn't like that great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, still, I had the rate that I had, but I was really like mentally thinking I can't I can't improve. It's not possible for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and a few weeks before the session, I also had I tried to get moving by getting back on the ladder
Mm-hmm.
alone, as I've watched some James videos, and I had one of the biggest tilt I ever had on the ladder before the session, and I was like, if I actually want to improve, first I'm not sure I can, but if I want to, it won't work. Uh, it won't work for me if I try to do it alone, basically.
Mm. Mm. And so then that was the moment where you're like, screw it, I'll give it a try.
Yeah. Uh, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't too sure at the beginning. Like I hesitated.
Mm-hmm.
I asked some friends, what they thought,
Mm-hmm.
and they told me like they thought the thing that I needed to work on the most was the mental side.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told them that you've been doing, at least on YouTube, stuff related to the mentality aspect, they were like, yeah, if you want to give it a try, give it a try. And I decided to go for it, and I'm not regretting.
Right, right. We haven't even gotten into your ridiculous results yet. Um, but actually, we can get right there because I wanted them to know like kind of the context. So, as far as your actual skill wise, where were you starting from at the beginning in the
Uh,
current gen, like
yeah, in
points and
in,
stuff?
in current gen OU, I was starting like I actually I broke 1400 right before the first session with Jam, but like I was basically stuck between 1400 and like 1350
Mm-hmm.
for some time before starting,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
So,
And
go ahead.
yeah, no,
No, I was saying more so like sort of the reason I'm sort of repeating it is because so the audience can follow so that we're like okay. But so before he actually played old gen a bit and then decided okay I want to get caught up to current gen because he wanted more respect. I remember he laughed about it. It's like hey I'm not a
yeah,
meme, right? And
yeah, that's what I said.
and then he decided, you know what, screw it. After a really bad tilt, consulting with some friends of his, he decided, okay, I'm going to, I'll give this a go and see what happens. And so when he started, he was actually ranging in the 1300s, and right before he managed to cross into the 14, like literally I think 1400 on the dot, and then we started
Yeah,
the session. So that was like his first time. So if any of you guys are currently in the 1300 in the lower ladder, you're like, man, I don't like there is no hope. Trust me, trust me. And I'd like for you to give them some perspective on just that how you were when we just started. Before we get into just how much progress you made, because he man, guys, when I tell you growth, like transformation, he transformed. But yeah, where were you like? What type of player were you before?
uh, when before starting,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was just like playing, and yeah, first thing first, what described me the most is like when I was hitting an objective, I
Mm-hmm.
was the kind of guy that just let it where it is, and not and that avoid to lose point by playing it. Obviously, that's not the most effective way to improve, and yeah, was my, yeah, I was basically, I was just really, 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 really scared to lose. I was really, even loading a single game on the ladder was making me anxious. I
Mm-hmm.
was just freaking scared to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when I got back to like I played like old gen for 3 years, something like that. So I'm not up to date with current gen, but I've still had some basic Pokemon knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, when I loaded my first game in current gen,
Yeah.
the main thing I had in mind was I don't want to lose. What if I lose?
Right.
And just thinking about yeah, just I don't want to lose. What will happen if I lose in at 1000?
Mm-hmm.
Like how much would that make me if
Yep.
I were to lose at that point and things like that.
Yep. What you just said right there is the dialogue in most people's head, whether they admit it or not. It's there. If you're, because behaviors always tell the full story. That's something I say, not only when in regards to Pokemon, but just it's a principle that applies to anything related to human behavior. So if you know, as a viewer, there's a thing that you're like, oh, I know I need to do it, but for some reason I feel like there's something blocking me. There is a fear of a negative outcome. That's always the answer. There's something you don't want to have happen, and so you're procrastinating, or you're like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or you know, it's I'm really not doing it because of insert excuse here, but it's really just fear, right? There's a fear of an outcome that you don't want to have happen. So with his case, I'm glad and I respect that he was able to just admit it, because I get PMs on that all the time. And if you're somebody who quits easily, that's your fear. Like you're afraid of the what is it gonna mean about me if I lose. That's I can put money on that's what the problem is. Otherwise, you just play nonstop, right? Why would you ever stop? So, again, thank you for that. But I just wanted to kind of hone in on that point for anybody listening. If you're like, oh dang, you know, I have that problem, and since most of my audience are guys, a good parallel, because you know something I often hear is like, well, it's sort of like, I don't know if this is an actual effect, like the bleacher. I'd call it the bleacher effect, which is the thing where like somebody on the sidelines always has the most things to say, but they've never actually played a game. Meaning, you know, everybody's a LeBron James critic, but has never had any success in basketball. You know what I mean? They could never make a basketball team to save their life, but they have a lot of opinions. So that also exists with other things. As somebody may be listening, saying, "Oh, what are you talking about? He's scared of losing a game, whatever." The same principles apply to most things. Sales, if you're in sales, if you're a guy and you're terrified of talking to girls, if you're a loner, it's the same principle. Technically, there's nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose, but that fear still exists of rejection. But there's nothing to lose. The only thing that is there is to fear is what Reddy just said, which is, what is it going to mean about me if I lose or quote unquote get rejected? What is it going to mean? And that part right there is why 90% of guys never approach beautiful women that are actually attracted to, or they don't go for the sale or the clothes that they're actually. And I've been I've been a victim to this plenty of times in my life, and learned how to overcome it. So I'm not speaking from a place of, oh, Jam has always mastered it. I've had to go through a lot of internal struggles to overcome that. But I'm saying from a place of, don't do again, I don't have a word for this, but don't be a victim of the bleacher effect, where you sit on the sideline talking about other people when in reality, you know, you have the same fears. So again, thanks for sharing, Reddy. And so as far as catching back up, he was at 1350, started, and Give them a rundown of how things were after your first session and the first week after that.
Okay, so just the first week. For the first week, I first thing first.
Mhm.
In the first session with Jam, we set a goal for me, which was 1700, which was the highest I had been on the ladder ever when I played current gen before when it was SM. So we went for this goal, and the first week, uh, I s- I basically like had a really huge increase of in points,
Mhm.
and I almost like reached this 1700 goal in this first week, but um, well, there was a lot of things that went well and that went better since I was like more motivated to play games. I was less thinking about what if I lose, because like when I played the game, I was just like, I played my game, whatever happened, take a stop, review it, and even if I lost, I would just like not care at all. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like,
Mhm.
of course, I was still a bit frustrated in some way, even if I take a break and I realized I've learned things or something like that. But I was really more calm and focused when I would search for new games after starting to really like apply
Mhm.
the the whole take a break and review the things you've learned in the and the things you did well in your game. So it went really well, but I was still like a bit anxious. Of course, you don't change in 1 week, so of course I was still a bit anxious. But like reviewing the game and yeah, and
Mhm.
taking a break became an automatism really quick,
Mhm.
and really felt way better than just binge loading game. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
And right there, you said like you almost hit the goal in really like I think it was like 6 days. So it was the
yeah,
7th. So you hit 1652. So you had a 300 point jump in 6 days. And mind you, we hadn't, and this is something that, I try to drill in, and I'm hoping somebody, at least one or two people, get this. But I didn't teach him any new skills at all the first week. So how do you explain a 300 point jump? Because you're probably like, "Jam, you must have gave him the secret sauce that you've been hiding," right? But I didn't teach him any new skills at all, not one. All we did was switch up his mental process, and I tried to explain this from several different angles, hoping that people understand that a lot of your struggles, a lot of your roadblocks is not a skill issue. 300 points. That's a lot of that's a big difference. 300 points is the difference between 1400 and 1700. Those types of players are nowhere near the same. So, a 1350 player and a 1650 player are not the same at all. So, just wanted to put that in there. 300 points. And so, after that, what did you notice start happening after you hit that peak?
after hitting that peak, I basically like, yeah, I started to think. Well, not the first day. The
Mm-hmm.
first day, I was still in the same mindset, but I had like not the greatest station, so I lost a few points. Like over 5 games, I lost something like, I don't know, I think 50 points, which is like basically a negative ratio over 5 games, but nothing like too crazy. But the thing is, after this session where I lost those 50 points, I started comparing myself to other people that I knew had underwent the Jambad uh, process, like people like Ninjak or people like that most people here will know. And I just started to compare myself, and not really myself, but just my progression to them. And like in the first week, it was inspiring. I would think about them, and I would be like, okay, so they did it. If I follow the same path, I replicate it in some way. So it was really motivating. In the second week, when I started to have more difficulties to gain point, and I actually started to decrease in point over the course of the week, I was just thinking, why can't I do the same as them? Why am I stuck? Why can't I go any further anymore? Why I almost reached my goal. I was so close to hitting
Right.
the 1700, and now I'm stuck. I think between 1500 and 1600.
Yeah.
And basically the day before our session for or our third session, so the one after the second week, I just lost it basically. I played game, and then at some point I think I don't remember if I documented. Yeah, I lost my 5 first games, and at that point I was already like thinking, why can't I go back to like almost hitting the 1700 like I did like a week ago? Why can't I replicate what those people did? The 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 growth they experienced. Why can I replicate that? And I just lost it, and I started to binge load again, and like loading in cycle until I've had one win, which basically made me lose more points than I would have lost anyway. So even if you're thinking in points, it's just not rational. But I just like I just lost it at that point. And I, first also, like when I started with Jam, I think that's something I told him in the first station, was like, yeah, I've played for 4 years, I've experienced tilt, I won't tilt, and there I was tilting again. So yeah, second week was a bit harder, but just because like it's Pokemon, so like you can't always like there, and even in anything, like you can't always have like a sky high growth curve or anything. Like at some point you will have time where you will plateau a bit, and I had a plateau, and I just, instead of keep on steadily, I just self-destroyed self-destroyed because I couldn't bear to hit the plateau. So I just basically stopped following the process for that day, and and yeah, it wasn't the most satisfying thing. Like after that day, I was really questioning if I was even like, I was not questioning like the process, because I knew that in that day I didn't follow it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was questioning even myself, like how messed up am I if I can't even follow the
Yep.
process, etc.
Good.
etc.
Good.
So I was like just uh, eating myself, even like not eating like physically, but
Right.
like sanctioning, punishing myself
Mm-hmm.
mentally in an even worse way
Mm-hmm.
because I failed to follow the process for one day. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, after that day we had a session and we worked. Yeah, I let you come back to this when it's when when basically
Mm-hmm.
sorry.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine. You're talking about the whiteboard session, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But after, like, there was definitely there was that day.
Mm-hmm.
The week in itself like was a bit tough, but I kept through it until that day.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been basically, yeah, that day where I tilted really really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And after, like, there was definitely an after this day
Mm-hmm.
where I just, whatever would happen in the session,
Mm-hmm.
this day and like the session we had the following day with Jam
Mm-hmm.
made me like not go through the same process. I don't want to use the word process here. Not go through the same mindset
Mm-hmm.
for the following sessions anymore, because I just realized that basically, like, as I said, I told Jam, like, I experienced tilt, I want tilt, and I also thought that I wouldn't associate with my point, that I knew that what it meant to associate with your point, and that I wouldn't do it. And I think I like Jam saw my report on that day, and like we talked a bit, and I just, like, in answer to his messages, realized, thinking after this discussion, that I was just like basically it's doing what I thought I wouldn't do, and what I thought was uh, something I had already learned
Mm-hmm.
through experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I trust, and we've talked several times about this, but I've made that mistake a million times myself. So it's one of those human traits that you never want to lose the spirit of a student. Um, and we went into stuff that, particularly that whiteboard session. For the viewer, you're like, what the hell is a whiteboard session? It's crazy. Like, those only come up. It's a very deep process, but it's like super liberating. Um, so if there are any mental hangups a player has after that, it's really hard to keep them. And so, as you're looking at the chart here, he actually went in the red for that week after that session. And I know his points might not have reflected how great his mindset was, but it was actually like a lot better of a process here. Like, mentally, you were doing a lot better in the week that you were in the red. And then obviously after that next session, where it was actually a lot of mindset stuff as well, just kind of talking about his experiences. After that, it was a wrap, and it was nothing but just going up and up and up and up and up and up. And usually when people are about to hit the goal, they tilt. But because of the whiteboard session, and because of making that mistake, and because of questioning yourself, which are super, again, something I express a lot. This has nothing to do with Pokemon, right? And I've recently tried to explain, not tried to, explained the delineation of the player versus the game, right? So the player is the actual person, how they think, you know, how they respond to adversity, all that stuff. And then the game is just whatever game you're playing, whether that's basketball, whether that's jujitsu, whether that's karate, whether it doesn't matter. Whatever game you play affects you, and you affect the game. So if you pick a vehicle and you dedicate yourself to it, you're gonna hit these same mental roadblocks that that already hit. But he just chose Pokemon. It's the same thing. Would have been the same if he chose Smash Bros. Would have been the same. Whatever competitive game, whatever thing that challenges you and pushes your brain to its limit, where you're really starting to doubt yourself, questioning yourself. Those are the things you want to move towards, because it actually transforms your brain. Like literally, your brain is rewiring. And so what happened when he started to surge here is it started to click. And mind you, it was like up to 2 weeks prior, he barely hit the 1400. So for him to be surging up, just knocking down 1700, the next day not tilting again, 1708, the next day again 1724, he's 75 points away from 1800 when 4 weeks ago. And honestly, if he kept going, if he kept doing the sessions, he would have eventually hit 1800 in just a few weeks, coming from 1350. So that's just showing like just how much of a mental thing a lot of this is. And did we discuss anything skill related for the most part?
Yeah, we just had like 1 point about something skill related, but the whole like that was like 1 point in one session over the course of 5 sessions. The rest was mainly about the whole mental aspect of things, which, well, is in the end really something I'm glad to jump for.
And I'm really glad to have worked with you as well. Like I learned a lot, and I think the most beautiful thing, and I genuinely mean that, we talked about this, but just kind of as a, was how differently to see the actual confidence in you translate offline, to where you're like, some goals that I had offline that I wasn't certain I was able to attain, for you to be thinking like, oh, I can do it, to see the transformation in your brain, not just in Mons, but offline as well, was the thing that was like just incredible. And, it really made it worth it. That's really what, like, just that right there is the thing I love seeing in people, where I get those messages of like, dude, the Pokemon mindset stuff you were talking about, that helped me to blah 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 with my family, whether like this stuff or school happens all the time, because principles aren't context dependent, meaning it's not just something having to do with minds, as we discussed. So it was just super dope to see that. So I'm glad to have worked with you as well. But that pretty much covers everything. We managed to go to 33. But any final words to the audience, or anything you want to say before we wrap up?
There is one thing. It's about like I don't have the English word coming in my way right now. The things you did, like with the question on the academy. I just wanted to highlight that those 5 questions Jam put on the academy, like in the announce channel, are basically not as deep as the whiteboard session we did that was really game changer for me, but are basically with the same kind of goal and same kind of idea that than the whiteboard session that I did with Jam. So I think if you people didn't looked at it yet, and if you think you can relate in any way with like the whole mental thing we spoke, I think it could be a great idea for anyone to look into it,
Hmm.
to look into those 5 questions that were posted there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you know, they helped me. They helped everybody. I'm talking even off. These are the same questions I use when I'm doing my offline businesses. Like the same clients have to go through the same questions. So those aren't Pokemon specific. Those are just the questions you ask to get to the core of anything within a person. So yeah, and the link will be down below if you want to use that. The slots are limited because I know that form only allows me to take a certain amount per month. So definitely check that out if you haven't. Thanks, Reddy, for describing your session. This was hopefully helpful. Um, if you want to work with me as well, just click the link in the description down below. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.